Can people change? This question may sound overly dramatic or philosophical, but if we are thinking about it, it tends to be very personal. We often ask ourselves this question when we are in a strained relationship, whether it's with a friend, a family member, or a partner, whose actions or even inactions are constantly causing pain to you. Even when we come clean with the fact that change is required and we communicate plainly with our person about it, no change would happen, as actually achieving change can be much more complicated and tangled. So, in the center of this whole frustration, a deeper question bubbles up. Are people able of a real change? One thing is likely an evidence to us. Even if people can change, they surely don't change easily. Your person may react negatively to being asked to do something differently, or they might say that they understand and they will make an effort to change, which raises your hopes, but at the end, they don't follow up with a meaningful action. And as a result of that, we can at best conclude that by the time we've had to raise this question of change in our minds, someone around us has managed not to change either straightforwardly or very gracefully. So we might ask a prior question: is it even okay to ask someone to change? The inclusion and the answer from those who cause trouble for us is most often a giant no. Love me as I am, they might say, even though change should be heard with a good will and, in certain cases, must acted upon with immense seriousness. So why might change be so hard? It isn't as if the change-resistant person is merely unsure what is wrong, or that he or she would change once an issue is pointed out. The refusal to change is far opinionated and deeper than this. In other words, the unchanging person doesn't only lack knowledge, they are also forcibly committed not to acquire it. And they deny it because they are running away from something extraordinarily painful in their past that they were primarily too weak or helpless to face, and still haven't found the means to confront it. In other words, we are dealing with a traumatized person. As a result, we may at this point give a chance after chance considering what that person had faced, and we keep doing so to a point where saying, couldn't they just change, would no longer make any sense. Simultaneously, we might not stick around as long as we often do. We should at this phase perhaps ask ourselves a question that may feel hard and tough, yet critical. Given how clear the evidence is of a lack of a change in that person over time and years, and hence a lack of realistic hope that our needs are going to be met anytime soon, and the time and energy we spent to clarify verbally and intentionally, why are we still here? Why are we trying to open a door that can't be opened and returning to a recurring frustration and hoping for a different result? What part of us can leave a lack of fulfillment alone? Which part of our story is being constantly facing broken hopes? Why do we have to bother all of that? And since we're talking about change, shouldn't we change into characters who should not sit around waiting without end for other people to change? Shouldn't we become better at filtering options and allowing through only those who can already meet our needs? You see, we may need to rebuild our minds to make a stand so that, with time, to change into people who don't wonder for too long if and when people might change. Sadly, to a point, for magnanimous and very honorable reasons, we've come to associate maturity and kindness with the capacity not to give up on people. But that broad and generous truth can be in danger of missing an important caveat: that health and maturity also require, at points, a settled capacity to give up on people, and that it's not always fine to keep giving them the benefit of the doubt, not relentlessly to imagine the nice things they might have done and meant beneath that thoughtless and unkind things they actually did and said. We need occasionally to despair of someone, to let go of someone, as the price to pay for keeping faith within ourselves. Why? Because you're not a child anymore. So what does that mean? It's in the children's lives that we see the inability to give up on someone regardless of its cruelest and most upsetting forms. By their nature and circumstance, children can't give up on those entrusted with looking after them, even when the latter are disappointing or cruel. Children present us with troubling examples of the impulse to keep loving at any cost with the person who offers one love, even when that love is blended with the darkest and unhealthiest elements, even when they are encapsulated by emotional neglect, coldness, unreliability, villainy, rudeness, broken promises to improve, and worst, children will always love that person. Why? Well, because of two reasons. One reason would be that children might say, maybe the outward behavior is bad, but the inside is good. Maybe they will change within time, and many others. You see, children have no options. They can't run away, begin again, or say that they've had enough. The world isn't broad, therefore, children don't even picture themselves in other circumstances. Frighteningly, each of these positions has its own adult equivalent. In certain unfulfilling relationship, we may have as much of a skill as the most unfortunate child of justifying why we are here, why we are to blame, why they are innocent, and why we can't move. It is we in particular, those highly skilled and not giving up, who need to hear a curious lesson in being a bit more decisive. We need to hear that, astonishingly, some people just don't change, that their characters have been altered and affected through trauma and a lack of self-improvement, and there is no chance that whatever they might say and however intensely they promise, they will ever display any growth. We need to hear that, surprisingly, some people are not entirely good and we are not necessarily the problem. We need to learn to blame and get annoyed with someone other than ourselves, because it's our right to feel and live a certain way. We need to do something very strange: walk away. This is no sign of cowardice or weakness of character. It's a sign that we have finally learned to love ourselves and to place our needs and passions in lives exactly where they should have been, right at the center of our consideration. This is it for today's video. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed it and want to hear from me again, please be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on your post notification bell so you never miss any video. And down there in the comment section, please feel free to comment your opinion about this video and I'll be happy to reply back. So thank you so much and I'll see you next time.